Hey, what is up guys? This video is the second part to my two-part series on how to play your best on tournament day. Let's get into part 2. So self 1 is the commanding and scolding self. That's the one that's telling you to do this and do that, and scolding you when you mess up. The key to handling self 1 is to quiet it. And to quiet self 1 is to unlearn how to be judgmental. You can even see the expressions on players' faces as they play, and you'll know the judgmental thoughts they're making. What judgment is exactly is assigning either a positive or negative value to an event. Judgment starts the process of thinking. First, you see something you do as bad, like maybe you missed a guaranteed combo. Then you start thinking about what was bad about it. Then you start telling yourself to correct it. And when the time comes to correct it, you try hard, instructing yourself to make the correction. Obviously here, the mind isn't still, we're not in that state of flow, and obviously this isn't where you're immersed in the game and you could be called in the zone. In the zone is where true creativity, spontaneity, and peak performance occurs. It gets worse once self 1 starts generalizing judgments. Things like saying I had a bad edge guard turns into I suck at edge guarding. I was nervous on the last stock quickly turns into I always choke in tournament. And these can even become I'm playing bad today, then eventually I'm a lousy Smash player, and finally I'm just plain bad. These self-judgments quickly become self-fulfilling prophecies. To let go of judgments, you must not ignore the errors, but observe everything without adding anything to them, without assigning a positive or negative. Judgmental labels usually lead to emotional reaction and tightness. Instead of saying that punish was so bad, simply view it as I didn't do the optimal punish there. Mastery is achieved when there's no attachment to immediate results, and you see everything for what it is, not for how you judge it. You must see that right now, everything is perfectly alright as it is. You need to trust that. Mistakes are natural. You must trust the process. Even slumps are part of the process, and they will last as long as you call them bad and identify with them. There will be ups and downs as your play changes and adapts from the natural learning of non-judgmental observation. Galway argues, in terms of tennis, as soon as a stroke is seen clearly and accepted as it is, a natural and speedy process of change begins. Remember, attaining your peak performance relies on your relationship between self 1 and self 2. A judging self 1 doesn't trust self 2 to adapt. But how can we trust self 2 to learn? Shouldn't we be instructing it so that it knows what to do? I was surprised to find out that this isn't the case at all. Once you develop trust, the most important aspect of top performance emerges that you've heard every single top Smash player, top Smash tuber, every wisdom giver, philosopher, motivator, cheerleader, and parent, and any kind of professional tell you. What emerges once you trust yourself too is self-confidence. If you aren't convinced to trust self too, and you believe it's your self-proclaimed brilliant self 1 instruction that's carrying you, I don't blame you if you're skeptical. But let me share from the chapter that has the sole purpose of encouraging the reader to respect and trust self 2. Galway continues to refer to, when trusting self 2, you return to the childlike way of learning. Reading this immediately made my eyes light up because it's almost always the younger players who come out of nowhere who are able to join the pro players. It's argued that younger players allow the natural learning process to happen much more often because they trust their self 2, the doer, instead of self 1, the teller. Take in this example and bear with me because it's about how my 6-year-old nephew could immediately do a Fortnite dance after seeing it one time, whereas I struggled. He didn't think about it for a second, he just let it happen. He saw the dance and he did it. I don't think I had the self-confidence to do that at all, and when I tried, I honestly couldn't wrap my head around it. The reason for that is I didn't trust myself too. In the book The Inner Game of Tennis, it argues once you rediscover your learning capabilities of self 2, your capacity to learn anything will be greatly improved. The key phrase here is let it happen. This is almost one of Galway's mantras in his book. He asks the reader to envision a mother who identifies with her child. Every time the baby walks, she takes personal pride in it. Every time the baby falls, she becomes distressed, and therefore, her self-image becomes as unstable as her child's balance. The mother finds stability when she realizes she is not her child and watches her child with love and interest, but as a separate being. You must view your play as the mother should view her child, as a separate entity. You must not identify with your play in the same way a mother should not identify with her newborn child. I quote, "Trust the body to learn and to play as you would trust another person to do a job, and in a short time, it will perform beyond your expectations." You'll find much more success in envisioning a Roy jab to back air and trusting yourself to pull it off than to give yourself instructions on how to perform it. Remember my nephew with his immediate mastery of a Fortnite dance. He saw the dance, then performed it. He had seen it, so he could envision it, and he let it happen. This is why, to Self 2, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and why I always highly recommend that players aim to improve regularly by watching the very top level along with playing a lot. When I would stream with my friend Chris, he'd play Falco and he never actually practiced himself, but he would watch high level play. Whenever he pulled some crazy thing off, he'd be like, "Yo, I saw Larry Lur do that and my body just did it. I never even practiced that." I totally believed him because I experienced that myself all the time. Once you begin to trust yourself too, there will be no greater teacher than one's own experience. I think we can conclude this series with a final quote. Once you are competing, it is too late to work on your strokes, but it is possible to hold in your mind the image of where you want the ball to go, and then allow the body to do what is necessary to hit it there. It is essential here to trust Self 2. Self 1 must stay relaxed, refraining from giving how to do it instructions, and from any effort to control the stroke. As Self 1 learns to let go, a growing confidence in the ability of Self 2 emerges. And there you have it. If you got value out of this 2-part series, please do share from part 1. It'd mean a lot to me, and share it with your good old pals and chums. Don't forget to hit that DK thumbs up and spank that subscribe button if you haven't already. Have a swell evening, guys, and I'll catch you on the flippity flip.